It's the World Cup of World Cups, Qatar 2022, the end of the groups.
Hello and welcome to the World Cup of World Cups. I'm James Cook. I'm joined, as always, by Paul Savage. Hello, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Once again, our numbers went up for our hastily cobbled together podcast. So thanks to everyone for listening and downloading.
We really do appreciate it. But just to let you know, there is literal hours of content that we talk about games that happened 70 years ago.
And we put a lot more prep into those than into these. Having said that, we're going to talk about the last round of group games. Start with Group A, might as well start at the beginning. The Netherlands continue their 100% record against Asian teams at World Cups with a 2-0 win over Qatar. Goals from Charlie Lala and Frenkie de Jong, whose transfer fee when Ajax bought him from Willem II.
A pair of tracksuits?
No, €1.
Because they needed something to put in the trolley.
And a 10% sell-on. So
okay.
They did all right out of that when he went to Barcelona. So the Netherlands are sort of quietly going about their business and topping the group. In comparison, looking really good.
I don't think there's been a standout team so far. I think everyone's had a wobble.
At the same time, Senegal became the first African team to beat a South American side since Cameroon beat Colombia in 1990.
Wow, that is some time.
With a 2-1 win over Ecuador, the winner coming from Kalidou Koulibaly, scoring his first international goal. And a good time to get it.
A really fun game, that. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, it was two teams with something to play for, going for it. Who knew that would be the recipe for interesting football?
It's almost like you have to have jeopardy and stakes.
But having said that, we're going to come to some examples where that doesn't happen at all. So in the Ecuador squad, Djorkaeff Riasco, named after...
Yuri Djorkaeff.
No, you're a Djorkaeff.
I thought it would be quite funny to name one of the other famous Djorkaeffs there, but I couldn't think of any.
Djorkaeff Riasco made his debut for LDU Quito in a game that his dad was also playing in.
It'd be quite fun if he played his debut in the game that his dad played and then his international debut in a game that Yuri Djorkaeff played, just for... Yuri Djorkaeff was well retired when he came to play.
And then into Group B and the first ever British derby at a World Cup between England and Wales. And at half-time, we all wanted Southgate to be sacked.
You can't spell Southgate without out.
Otherwise, it would be Shgate. And then the second half, a slight tactical switch, and Wales being no good, leads to England winning 3-0. Marcus Rashford's first is the first free kick goal at this World Cup.
And Marcus Rashford has scored the same amount of direct free kicks as Cristiano Ronaldo has at World Cups, but in something like 53 less attempts.
Well, that's because Cristiano Ronaldo has not taken one against Danny Ward, who is standing in the wrong place.
You see, that's all you got to do is just mind control Danny Ward. What's the point of having a wall if you're not going to believe in the effectiveness of your wall?
And then less than a minute later, Ben Davies dwells on the ball. Rashford wins it back, gives it to Kane, who again, with the no-look cross, which is fast becoming his signature move, to Philip Walter Foden.
There's no way Haaland's not bullying him for that.
For him to score his first England World Cup goal. And then about 15 minutes later, Rashford just runs through the Welsh defence and... I think he nutmegs a defender and a goalkeeper.
He's playing football and croquet.
And that is England's 100th World Cup finals goal. For context, Brazil's 100th World Cup finals goal was the one that Pelé scores in the 1970 World Cup final.
Yeah, but as I pointed out, how many goals does Pelé have at home internationals? None.
So England are through, they've topped the group and they've scored 9 goals, and yet for some people it's still not enough.
Yeah, you made me watch 2 hours of a boring thing. It's like watching Mad Men back in the day where you're like, oh, is this going to be moving the plot forward or just 2 people going to have a weird lunch?
So plucky Wales, who we like to patronise a lot, are out. The brave Welsh, who've won a lot of friends and just whatever cliches you want, really. They weren't good enough. They got beat.
They didn't light up the tournament in any way, in the way that they did in 2016, the Euros.
No, and it's because their main players are 6 years older now, and that really showed.
And the fact that they had to put on Joe Morrell, who, with the greatest of respect to Joe Morrell, plays in League One and does not start for them regularly.
The Wales squad included the aforementioned Ben Davies, who has a 2-1 in economics and business from the Open University, which he got last year.
Oh, fair play.
While playing Premiership football, he got a degree at the same time. And now a couple of the Welsh players have tangential relationships to me, it turns out. Chris Mepham, the defender, was born in Northwick Park Hospital in Middlesex in November 1997. Next door to that is the campus of the University of Westminster, where in November 1997, I was studying. So I would have been in the university literally next door to the hospital he was born in. I have messaged someone I went to university with to tell him that, and it made him feel very old.
I am 100 years old. Speaking of hospitals people were born in, I was born in the same hospital that John Lennon was. Then, when I went to university up in Liverpool, my mum was like, I recognise this halls of residence when she was dropping me off. Oh, this is where you were born, because it's now halls of residence.
So your halls of residence was the hospital you were born in?
Yeah.
They're going to turn it into a retirement home, you know, just so you know where you're going to end up. Also, Brennan Johnson, their forward, his dad is...
What, you think I'm going to name every single person called Johnson?
David Johnson, used to play for Ipswich and Nottingham Forest.
Right, that wouldn't have been my first guess.
He was a £1 million footballer in the 90s. Anyway, I once played in a charity game with David Johnson.
What I love is that I'll say a funny thing, you're like, well, that's getting cut, and then this will stay in.
Yeah. I played football with Brennan Johnson's dad. That's staying in.
Fine.
I used to work on local commercial radio in Nottingham. That's how come that happened.
So, sorry, were you one of the team of celebrities that they always have where you've never heard of any of them?
Yep. Also in the Wales squad, Joe Roden, whose dad Kerry played basketball for Wales. Aaron Ramsey, who has scored 2 FA Cup final winning goals.
That's fairly impressive.
Adam Davis, their third choice goalkeeper, who was born in Germany.
On a military base?
On a military base, yes. And Kiefer Moore, former England C international, which is for...
What is England C?
Non-league players. Kiefer Moore was eligible to play for England. He chose Wales. He was also eligible to play for...
It's going to be something mad like Ghana.
China.
What? That is mad. So was he born on a Chinese military base in Germany?
And all this means that the winner of the US-Iran game will also go through with England. The US Soccer Federation tweeted an Iranian flag without the emblem of the Islamic Republic.
They were like, this is a protest. And everyone had to go, is it? Because that kind of just looks like the Hungarian flag.
So Iran said that the only reasonable course of action for FIFA to take here would be to throw America out of the World Cup for tweeting the wrong flag.
I mean, that's not nearly the maddest thing that they've ever done. I can't think of a single team that have ever been thrown out of the World Cup.
Not at this point, no. There have been teams that have been thrown out and not allowed to enter.
But once you're there, you're there.
Aptly, Christian Pulisic scores the only goal, but does injure himself in the process. But he has gone on social media to clarify, not in the testicles. Pulisic, nicknamed Captain America, who's the most expensive North American footballer ever when Chelsea spent £57.6 million on him in 2019. When he was 7 years old, he played for Brackley Town youth team.
Bet they wish they had a sell-on clause.
What did Joe Biden say when he heard that America had won 1-0?
Something mad and rambling.
I've got the quote here. US 1, Iran 0. Game is over. You got it. That's a big game, man. God love them.
One of the great orators.
I mean, it's no Ich bin ein Berliner, is it? Into Group C. Wojciech Szczesny, who looks exactly like Troy McClure from The Simpsons, saves a penalty for the second consecutive game, this time from Lionel Messi. But Argentina go on to win 2-0 anyway. The goals scored by Alexis Mac Allister, which is 3 names. There's a space between Mac and Allister. His
dad is also a Mac Allister, and they do have Scottish roots. And his dad could not look more Scottish if he tried. Because I looked him up, he's also a professional footballer. Alexis McAllister is one of 3 footballing brothers who all look really Scottish, but don't speak a word of English, apparently.
Yeah, his dad, Carlos, had 3 caps for Argentina, but never went to a World Cup. He was also Argentinian Minister of Sports between 2015 and 2018. Alexis's brothers are called Francis and Kevin. He has a brother called Kevin McAllister, And one time, when they went on holiday, he got left on his own.
We forgot about Kevin.
Other goal was scored by Manchester City's Julian Alvarez, nicknamed La Araña.
The Spider.
And that means that Mexico need a 3-goal win to qualify, but they only win 2-1 against Saudi Arabia. Another British name, Henry Martin, scores for Mexico.
Henry Martin sounds like a sitcom character from the 90s who's having a breakdown.
As played by Richard Bryars. And Luis Chavez scores the second free-kick goal and I think longest range goal of the World Cup so far. And Mexico maintain their 100% record against Asian teams at World Cups, but it is not enough and they are out.
The streak is over. The 7 World Cup streak of them reaching the 4th game and then busting out. It's over. It's done.
So, didn't even get that far this time. Their squad featured Rogelio Funes Mori, whose identical twin, Jose Ramiro, who played for Everton and Argentina. They are identical twins. One played for Argentina, one played for Mexico. Honestly, the lengths twins will go to differentiate themselves from each other.
It's the too much dressing the same as a kid. Right, I don't want to wear the same shirt.
And Roberto Carlos Alvarado, who is named after...
Roberto Carlos.
Yes, he is. And Saudi Arabia are also out, coached by Hervé Renard, formerly of Cambridge United, bizarrely, but also the first coach to win 2 AFCONs with different nations, Zambia in 2012 and Cote d'Ivoire in 2015. And he looks like the villain in a Disney TV movie. He looks like he's about to buy the land that the kids' clubhouse is on and turn it into business flats.
We've got to go to the World Cup and beat Mexico to save the rec centre.
In Group D, Matthew Leckie scores to give Australia a 1-0 win over Denmark. It is the first time Australia have won 2 games at a World Cup, the first time they've scored in every group game, and the first time they've got to the second round since 2006.
Now, I can't quite work it out because he scored in the 60th minute. The goal in the other game was scored in the 58th minute, but I don't know whether they actually started at the same time. But if so, I believe it was the shortest time that anyone's been going through.
Wabi Kazri had given Tunisia the lead. In that game, Antoine Griezmann has a last-minute goal ruled out for offside by VAR, but only after the final whistle had blown and French TV had gone to commercial.
It's like ITV with Steven Gerrard.
And they came back from the ads and went, actually, we didn't draw.
Can you imagine if they'd gone to commercial, cut back and be like, guys, we didn't get through, sorry. That would be hilarious.
So France have now won 3, lost 3 against African teams at World Cups. In Group E, Spain had never lost to an Asian team at a World Cup going into this. And Alvaro Morata scores his 3rd of the World Cup and goes to the top of the Golden Boot table. And with Germany going 1-0 up against Costa Rica, it looks like this group is just going to sort of peter out into nothing and go, oh, well, Spain and Germany are getting through. And then the second half happens.
One of the best 45 minutes of anything.
And just like he did against Germany, substitute Ritsu Doan gets the equaliser, and then substitute Kaoru Mitoma pulls the ball back across the goal because 0.00001% of the ball hadn't crossed all of the line.
It's literally a shadow. It's the same amount that Cristiano Ronaldo touched with his hair.
The ball still has the memory of the touchline. It still counts as being in.
It's a homeopathic cross.
And Ao Tanaka scores the winner, and now it's time for us to go off on a tangent. Ao Tanaka plays for Fortuna Düsseldorf in Bundesliga 2. In the last episode, I said that Mitchell Duke was the first ever World Cup goalscorer to be playing for a second-tier club, and then I said that can't be true, and we asked people to get in touch with any suggestions. Well, some people did get in touch. 4foot on Twitter told us about Colin Clark, who scored for Northern Ireland in 1986 while playing for Bournemouth, but they were in Division 3, so they weren't a second-tier club, so I'm afraid that doesn't count. And then Matt Hollins emailed us to say that Billy Hamilton scored for Northern Ireland in 1982 while a Burnley player, and they'd just been promoted from Division 3 to Division 2. Does that count as second-tier? Because
yes.
Is it? But he hadn't played in the second tier yet. He'd been playing in the third tier. Is Billy Hamilton in a sort of weird limbo between the third tier and second tier when he scored that goal? And then if that doesn't count, then Jerry Armstrong, who'd just been promoted from Division 2 to Division 1 and scored in that World Cup, that must count. One of those has got to count as being a second tier.
Yeah.
So if it's not one, it must be the other. And then Matt also pointed out that Ivor Allchurch was playing for Swansea Town in Division 2 when he scored for Wales in 1958, which is true. So he was in the second tier, as was Agni Simonsen in the same World Cup, who scored 4 goals for Sweden, including one in the final. He was playing for Örgryte, who had just won promotion from the Swedish second tier. Also, in 1982, Joe Jordan had just been relegated with Milan to Serie B when he scored for Scotland. One of the most famous goals in World Cup history, 1990, Francois Oman Biik was playing for Laval in Ligue 2 in France when he scored against Argentina. In 1994, John Aldridge was playing for Tranmere Rovers when he scored for Ireland. And Georgi Hagi was playing for Brescia, who just won promotion from Serie B, and he scored for Romania. And in 2006, Gianluca Zambrotta and Alessandro Del Piero had both been relegated to Serie B with Juventus as part of the Calciopoli scandal when they both scored for Italy in that World Cup.
So it turns out that fact was not a fact.
Turns out there are quite a lot, but quite a lot of them are sort of between divisions in that strange limbo. Anyway, with Japan winning, it didn't matter what Germany did. They were going out. They won 4-2 in a repeat of the scoreline from the opening game of 2006, with 2 goals for Kai Havertz and Let Slip the Dogs of War. After finishing in the top 8 of every World Cup from 1954 to 2014, Germany have now gone out in the first round twice in succession. Their last World Cup clean sheet was in the 2014 World Cup final. Their squad featured Jamal Musiala, born in Stuttgart to a British-Nigerian father and a German-Polish mother. He lived in England between the ages of 7 and 16 and played for both Germany and England at youth level. Could have joined us.
Was in the same setup as Jude Bellingham.
Jonas Hoffmann, the midfielder, who owns 3 Subway restaurants in the Heidelberg area.
I know that's Subway brands, but I really want it to be just down a deserted underpass. You want some breakfast?
And Leroy Sané, the son of Olympic bronze medal gymnast Regina Weber and Senegalese international Souleymane Sané.
So you're saying that the one guy who owns a sandwich restaurant isn't Sané?
Yeah. In Group F, in their first World Cup game against the CONCACAF nation, Morocco take a 2-0 lead over Canada, who pull one back when Naif Aguerd becomes the first player to score an own goal at this World Cup. Manuel Neuer becomes the second a couple of hours later.
Is he the first player to score a World Cup goal that is one letter away from a player who's also scored a World Cup goal? Aguerd!
Oh, yes, Aguerd and Aguero, yes. Oh, I mean, there must be others.
Yeah, it probably is.
Don't make me look this up.
No, you're not going to look it up. Our listeners are. It'll be a fun little challenge for them.
worldcupofworldcups@gmail.com is the email address. This puts Morocco through to the second round for the first time since 1986, when they also won their group. So it's either they win their group or they're just out.
Win or bust, the Morocco story.
And this means that Belgium need to beat Croatia, but Romelu Lukaku misses 3 gilt-edged chances. He personally has an XG of 1.98 in the 45 minutes that he played, which is better than Australia for the whole World Cup.
It is astonishing. There's one where he takes it on his gut, where literally any other part of his body is just going to deflect it in.
There is that footage of him afterwards punching the dugout and breaking the dugout in frustration. Also, Josko Gvardiol, if we're talking about players who are a bit similar to other players' names, he put in one of the best defensive performances I have ever seen. And it wasn't like throwing himself around, getting in the way of stuff. There was a bit of that. It was just incredibly measured and just always there to tidy up. And he's 20. Group G.
Gee, they're great.
Brazil had already qualified, so they sent out their reserves. And you think, well, they're Brazil reserves. They must be still pretty good. But they managed to lose to an African team at the World Cup for the first time.
They left it late.
It was Vincent Abubakar, him of the scoop goal.
It's a real shame that he's no longer going to, no longer going to be in this World Cup, because he's been a real fun find.
Scores the winner in the 92nd minute here, takes off his shirt, despite having already been booked.
I know there's rules, but stop being joyless automatons.
You say that, but the referee is clearly smiling when he sends him off in a kind of, you know you're going to have to go. And Abubakar's like, I'm fine with it. It's the 92nd minute. I'm fine.
I've won. We're not going through because we already know the Swiss skull. So what am I? Suspended for the next friendly? Whatever.
It means Brazil lose. Brazil and Portugal were the last chances of there being teams finishing the groups with a 100% record, which usually happens. There's usually 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
But there have been none in this World Cup.
There's been 3 previous World Cups where that's happened. Right. 58, 62 and 94. And what's, James, about 58, 62 and 94 happens in all of them? What do they all have in common?
Brazil went on to win the World Cup. It's a sign. It's an omen.
One of my favourite things that I ever found, Wikipedia-wise, is a list of sporting curses. And it just goes on with, this curse was broken in 1982. This curse was broken in 2004. Yeah, because there's loads of things that you're cursed to never do until you do it. Like Mexico are cursed to always get to the 4th game of the World Cup and then not get through. They don't even get to that far. Yes. The curse has lifted.
This is the year when all the curses stop.
Does this count, from our conversation the other day, this counts as an upset, even though they're already qualified and it doesn't matter? I think it counts as an upset. Same with France being beaten by Tunisia.
No, these are upsets. France and Brazil can put out whatever teams they want from their squads. There are people saying, it's not fair, they shouldn't do that. No, they've won the right to put out whatever team they want. Brazil are through and Cameroon are out, despite the fact Cameroon have just beaten Brazil.
Yeah, I think that should count more. You should get points for that.
You just want to give more points for the teams you like. Is what that is.
Yes, James, that is what. I mean, honestly, I would take any of those teams that went through that group against some of the other ones.
Well, Switzerland are also through. They beat Serbia 3-2 and coming from 2-1 down at one point.
Yeah, they went 1-0 up with Shaqiri.
And then Mitrovic and Vlahovic put Serbia ahead before Mbolo equalised just before half-time. And Freuler of Nottingham Forest 3 minutes into the second half, so you think there are going to be loads more goals, but then they just stopped scoring goals and instead started getting yellow cards. There were 11 yellow cards in this game.
It's one of those ones where you go, I don't think Switzerland have ever gone to war with Serbia. It would be very out of character.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be a lot of needle. Part of that is due to the fact that the Swiss players have quite a few Croatian and Albanian heritage players who like to let Serbia know that they have Albanian or Croatian heritage.
Predrag Ratkovic, the sub-goalkeeper for Serbia, was booked for just being on the bench. We should say Abubakar is only the 3rd person to be sent off in the World Cup so far. Who were the other 2?
Wayne Hennessy.
Yeah.
Wayne Hennessy for shoving his bum in their face. And I don't know.
It was Paulo Bento, the South Korean coach.
Oh, you've done one of your little tricks, haven't you?
After the Ghana game. Group H, Georgian de Aracheta scores twice in 6 minutes to give Uruguay a 2-0 lead over Ghana after Andre Ayew had a penalty saved.
One of the worst penalties. Just hit it properly. The Uruguayans wasted a lot of time from when the penalty was sort of given to when the penalty was actually given. And I think that might have got in his head of just how long he had to think about every single option. He never looked like he was scoring.
There have been quite a lot of penalties saved so far in this World Cup, which does not bode well for the knockouts when penalty shootouts come into play. It could be like 0-0 and a penalty shootout for a long time.
Georgian de Aracheta is the first, can I have a ding? Player at a World Cup to be named after a style of house.
Nope. No, it isn't, because of the Croatian centre-half from the 90s, Igor Tudor. Thank you very much. And that was off the top of my head.
Oh, what a waste of life we've had.
So that 2-0 win is enough to see Uruguay through, as long as South Korea don't beat Portugal. Portugal had taken a 5th-minute lead, only for Kim Yong-guan to equalise. And then in the 91st minute, Sun Young-min plays in Hwang Hee-chan, and he puts South Korea in the lead and in second place in the group on goals scored.
It was really interesting listening to the radio commentary because Uruguay were, to be fair, throwing quite a lot at Ghana to try and get that 3rd goal, but also just it wasn't happening. And then they took off 2 of their more potent strikers to rest them for, I went, oh, yeah, kind of needed you.
Uruguay end up with 8 minutes to score a goal, but they don't have De Aracheta, Suarez or Nunes because they've already been subbed off.
And then Luis Suarez had a cry.
You'd have to have a heart of stone not to laugh your head off at that. So, yes, Uruguay are out and South Korea are through. Every non-native coach has been knocked out.
Interesting.
Everyone who's still in is coached by someone from their own country. Who are statistically the best team at this World Cup so far?
Complete guess, because it's never us. I'm going to guess England.
It is England with 7 points and a goal difference of +7. We are number one.
I just assumed that the statistic you would be using would be something mad like XG over throw-ins. But no, like actual points and goals. Yeah.
So I've been looking into the history of sort of if you rank the teams in the groups that qualify, give them like seedings like in Wimbledon or something, and then work out where they then end up. The most common finishing position for the team that finishes the group stage as statistically the best is 3rd place, including the last 2 World Cups, where Belgium were the best in the group stage in 2018 and the Netherlands were in 2014. It has happened that the number 1 ranked group team has won the World Cup. In fact, it's happened 3 times, and it happened 3 times in a row in 1994, 1998, and 2002, where, Brazil, France, and Brazil were the best teams in the groups in those years. Famously, Italy won the World Cup being the 12th out of 12 qualifiers in 1982.
Scraping through.
But usually you have to be in like the top 7. Basically, I'm just trying to find evidence that England are definitely going to win this World Cup. The worst that the top-ranked team has done is in 1986, when the top-ranked team were Denmark, who then lost 5-1 to Spain in their next game. So it can go hideously wrong as well.
Yeah, it's almost like football's chaos. Trying to put patterns on it is not sensible. Having said that, do you want to try and put patterns on it and do the brackets?
So looking at the round of 16, we've got Netherlands versus the United States.
I'm going to be very boring and say that the Netherlands will win that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say the US are going to win.
Ooh.
If Pulisic plays. Argentina, Australia.
I'm going to be really boring and say Argentina are going to win.
Yeah, Argentina will win that. France, Poland.
I think France will win that.
Yes, France. England, Senegal.
England are going to win.
If I say England are going to win, they won't win because I'm so terrible at predictions.
You help us out.
I'm going to say Senegal, wink. Japan, Croatia.
I reckon Japan are going to win. I reckon if they can do it in the 90, they'll win. If it goes to extra time, Croatia will win.
Yeah. Do you think Croatia are tired yet?
No, they never get tired.
Brazil, South Korea.
I think Brazil will win. Oh, wouldn't a Japan-South Korea quarterfinal be so much more fun?
Morocco, Spain, the Ignacio Lopez derby.
No, I want Morocco to win. They did beat a quite good Belgium side.
Belgium weren't that great, though. Spain are better than Belgium.
Spain got beat by Japan. Only drew with Germany, who looked quite poor. Morocco are going to do it.
Oh, I think Spain will probably win that. And then Portugal, Switzerland. It doesn't really matter who wins between Portugal and Switzerland, does it?
Yeah, I think Switzerland might do a job there. So Brazil won their group, scoring the least goals, and Serbia lost their group, scoring the most goals. Goals don't matter, apparently. I realised, because it almost happened, that you could qualify by scoring 1 goal. So you lose 1 game, you draw the other 0-0, and then you win 1-0. Has anyone ever qualified by just scoring 1 goal?
Yes, Italy in 1970. We covered this in the 1970 episode.
I know, but you remember the 1970 episode was about 4 months ago.
It's possible to qualify without scoring a goal at all.
Yeah, true.
Because you just draw all your 3 games 0-0, and if the other games in the group go the way you want them to, you'll get through in second place. So it really does depend what the rest of the group does a lot of the time. So it's an interesting bracket because we could end up with an Argentina-Brazil semi-final. We could end up with a Japan-South Korea quarter-final.
Spain-Portugal quarter-final, which would be possibly fun or possibly terrible.
An England-France quarter-final is possible. And a Netherlands-Argentina quarter-final that is a sort of rematch of the 1998 Bergkamp game. I think it's wide open.
You could have, and this is the fevered dream of a madman, you could have an Australia-America quarter-final
You could have a Morocco-Senegal semi-final. Yeah, I think it's wide open. I think we were told Brazil and Spain and France, but we've seen all of those teams lose. Admittedly, 2 of them putting out reserve teams. But it does arrest momentum when you do that. It doesn't always work.
I don't think there's an easier side of the draw either. I think it's very open. Do you want to do my little quiz now?
No. Yes, of course.
All
of course I want to do your quiz.
Okay, play along at home. So, on Radio 5 Live, Sebastian Bassong of Cameroon, Pat Nevin, and Dion Dublin were asked if they were on the line in the Uruguay-Ghana game from 2010, where Suarez handled on the line, would they also handle the ball, block the goal, and save their country going out? One of them said they wouldn't, out of Sebastian Bassong, Pat Nevin, and Dion Dublin. Who said that they would not do that?
I'm going to guess Pat Nevin.
It is Pat Nevin because he's lovely.
He reads The Guardian, doesn't he? His typical lefty response.
Which odd place was Harry Maguire mentioned this week?
Since you asked me this question in a message earlier this week, I'll do the guess that I did then, which was the International Space Station. I have subsequently found out that it's not that.
It's not much dumber. It's not much weirder than that. It is in the Ghanaian parliament during a budgetary meeting. How far into the today's Uruguay-Ghana game did Pat Nevin say a player was a disgrace whilst he was on co-coms?
1 minute.
Less than that, it was 15 seconds. Cho Gui-sung scored 2 for South Korea in their 3-2 loss. How many Instagram followers did he gain from going to prominence by that? He was on 200,000.
1 million.
He's now on 1.6 million. So if you want to get 8 times more Instagram followers, simply score twice for your country at the World Cup.
It's as simple as that. Well, what a lovely quiz, Paul. I had a lot of fun doing that. Thank you.
Thanks. And for 5 bonus points, who are the 5 unbeaten teams still remaining in this tournament?
They would be England.
Yes.
The United States.
Yes.
Croatia.
Yep.
Morocco.
Yep.
And the Netherlands.
It is 5 bonus points to James.
Can you confirm that I just stared at you unblinking while I was doing that? So I couldn't possibly be looking it up.
I couldn't see his hands, but he was the sort of dead-eyed psychopath stare that he gets when he's deep in the quiz zone.
We will return after the round of 16 with a roundup of what happened there. You'll already know, but hopefully we'll have some facts and fun bits that you won't know.
Yeah.
Remember, you can support us at ko-fi.com/World Cup of World Cups and email us worldcupofworldcups@gmail.com. I'm on social media at James E. Cook.
I'm at Comedy Savage. I've got a book out for Christmas. You've got a book out for Christmas. Buy our bloody books. We need to pay for things.
I mean, it's not a great advertising slogan, but it is true. I've got a book called 101 Board Games to Play Before You Die. It's all about nostalgic old board games, and you can get it from 101boardgames.com.
And I've got a book called But Doctor, I am a collection of comic strips by Paul Savage, and it is available from savagecomic.com. I'll doodle in the front cover. I'll make it personalised to you.
Until next time, this has been the World Cup of World Cups. Ta-ra!
Good night.